Hello everyone. Welcome to Anime Octopus, thank you for joining us on this channel. Today's fanfiction topic is, what if Naruko was the reincarnation of Indra? Disclaimer. The content featured on this channel is intended solely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not claim ownership of any anime footage used. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's dive right into it. Naruko, a new spark of the past. In the heart of Konoha, on a morning where the sky blushed a soft lavender and the clouds looked like shy sheep grazing in the sky, a certain girl with sunshine-colored hair and endless energy bounced along the streets. Her name was Naruko Uzumaki, and today she was determined to make the whole village notice her. Again. With a crumpled flyer in one hand and a determined grin on her face, Naruko zoomed past the early morning vegetable stands, calling out greetings whether people wanted them or not. "Oi! Old man soba. Don't burn the noodles again," she called, earning a grumble from the shopkeeper who secretly smiled after she passed. Most villagers turned away when they saw her. Some scowled. Others simply whispered. But none of that fazed Naruko. She was used to it. In fact, she'd started seeing it as a kind of game. Still, something strange had been happening lately. Naruko had started having dreams. Not just any dreams, these were vivid, ancient, and strangely sad. In them, she stood atop stormy mountains, staring down at forests and cities that didn't exist anymore. Her eyes burned with power. Her heart felt heavy, but also proud. And always, there was a figure in the distance, a boy with calm eyes and a smile like the moon. Sometimes they argued, sometimes they trained, and sometimes they sat under trees, quietly watching stars together. But no matter what, Naruko always woke up feeling like she'd lost something she hadn't known she had. She tried to tell Iruka-sensei once. "I've been dreaming about some weird guy who knows how to use chakra like." Boom. "And I think I was him? Except I wasn't me, but I was, you know?" she said, wildly gesturing with her chopsticks. Iruka blinked. "You dreamed you were someone else?" Naruko nodded, her cheeks stuffed with rice. "Yeah. With crazy eyes and hair like a porcupine." Iruka chuckled. "Well, Naruko, you do have a big imagination." But she wasn't imagining it. One afternoon, as golden sunlight streamed through the training fields, Naruko sat cross-legged in the grass, poking at a frog she'd befriended. "You ever feel like you're more than you are, Froggins?" she asked. Froggins blinked. "Like, maybe you were a whole entire prince in a past life, but now you're just a frog?" She tilted her head. "I feel like that. Like there's something in me trying to wake up." Then it happened. For a moment, just a blink of the wind, her vision flashed with strange symbols. Spirals. Tomoe. A flicker of glowing energy buzzed through her fingertips, and the frog croaked in alarm, hopping away as if the grass had become too hot. Naruko stared at her hands. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. But she had. That evening, she snuck into the Hokage library. Again. She had mastered the art of slipping behind the security seal with the stealth of a cat wearing sneakers. She didn't look for forbidden scrolls, those were kept too high anyway. Instead, she wandered until she found the older, dustier shelves where books no one read anymore lived. One thick book, bound in cracked leather and gold thread stitching, pulsed when she touched it. Reincarnations of Chakra, the Cycle of the Suns. She blinked. This sounds like a bedtime story. But as she opened it, the words pulled her in. They told of two sons born from the Sage of Six Paths. Indra, the older, gifted, powerful, with eyes like the moon. And Asura, the younger, warm-hearted, resilient, with strength that came from love and support. The story said their spirits never truly left the world. They were reborn again and again into those destined to change it. Most recently, the book hinted, Asura had been born as someone kind and brave. And Indra? No name was listed. Naruko squinted. "I wonder." For the next week, Naruko's dreams grew stranger. Now she heard whispers, faint echoes of a voice like wind through stone. "Remember, Indra. The eye sees, but the heart must choose." She also started to feel different. Not in a bad way, but in a "why do I suddenly understand how chakra flows like rivers?" kind of way. She found herself mimicking jutsu she had never learned and drawing strange patterns in the dirt during lunch. Sasuke Uchiha noticed. "You're weird," he said one day, as she absent-mindedly traced a spiral over and over with a stick. Naruko beamed. "Thanks." That wasn't a compliment. Still, thanks. But he kept watching her, especially when her eyes glowed faintly during sparring. Then came the day of the Academy Chakra Flow test. Iruka-sensei stood with a chakra paper strip. "When you hold this, it will show your natural affinity," he said. "Fire, water, earth, wind, lightning, everyone has one." He handed Naruko her strip. It split. Burned. Crumbled. Crackled. Wavered. All 5 reactions happened at once. The entire room fell silent. Iruka stared. That's impossible." Naruko dropped the paper. It dissolved into sparkling ash. She grinned awkwardly. "I guess I broke it?" Word spread quickly. The Hokage summoned her to his tower. "Naruko," the third said, peering over his pipe. "Has anything strange happened to you lately?" She considered lying. Instead, she said, "I think I was someone else before. A boy with crazy eyes and a lot of opinions. And I think he was sad a lot. Even when he was strong." Hiruzen nodded slowly. "Indra Otsutsuki." She froze. "You know about him?" "I know of him," he said gently. "And I know. If he has returned, you must understand, power is only part of the story. The path of peace does not begin with strength. It begins with choice." Naruko tilted her head. "That sounds like something the frog would say." Over time, things changed. Not all at once. She still played pranks, although now they involved confusing genjutsu spirals, and she still argued with Sasuke, though now their duels were evenly matched. But something inside her was different. Deeper. Calmer. As if the storm of Indra's past was starting to settle into a quiet river inside her. She didn't want revenge. She didn't want power for its own sake. She wanted to be seen. To be loved. To love back. And maybe, just maybe, that was why Indra's soul had returned, not in a boy of steel, but in a girl of laughter. Not in someone who chased perfection, but in someone who chased ramen carts and frogs and dreams. Maybe, this time, the story would end differently. Years later. When she stood beside Sasuke, no longer as rivals, but as leaders, Naruko often wondered what the Sage of Six Paths would say if he saw them now. 2 reincarnations. One of Indra. One of Asura. But no longer bound by fate. "I guess we broke the cycle," she said once, tossing him a rice ball during a long mission. Sasuke caught it. "You're still annoying. You're still a grump." But their smiles said what words didn't. This was a new beginning. And it had started with a girl, a frog, and a dream that refused to be forgotten. After the strange chakra paper incident, Naruko became a quiet legend inside the academy. At first, it made her nervous. She had spent years being invisible, or worse, ridiculed. Now, instructors whispered behind clipboards. Classmates avoided direct sparring with her, even the confident ones like Kiba and Neji. Even Sasuke grew more withdrawn, not out of fear, but calculation. He didn't like not knowing things. Especially about Naruko. It wasn't just the rumors. Naruko felt it too, her chakra had changed. It pulsed differently, like it had layers stacked inside. Sometimes, when she focused too hard, glowing markings danced faintly across her palms, thin lines shaped like ancient script, a language she couldn't read but somehow understood. She began to hear fragments, memories that weren't hers. A laugh that rang too deep for her voice. A village that wasn't Konoha, swallowed by snow. A father whose eyes held the universe. And always, the other boy. Asura. Naruko started talking to him during quiet moments. "You're still in there, aren't you?" she whispered while sitting under the lone tree on the academy roof. A breeze rustled the leaves. "I'm not who you remember. But I'm going to finish what you couldn't," she added, placing a hand on her chest. "And I won't do it with war." The turning point came during a class trip to the fire temple. While most students grumbled about the long walk and stale rice balls, Naruko wandered to the edge of the cliff where the monks meditated. The head monk, an elderly man named Master Genkai, paused mid-prayer to study her. "You carry old chakra," he said quietly. "One that once shook the skies." Naruko blinked. "Do you mean Indra?" Genkai gave her a slow nod. "Most would run from that name. Yet you walk with it calmly." She sat beside him, cross-legged. "I didn't choose it," she said. "But I don't think Indra was evil. I think he was sad. Angry. Alone." The monk smiled, his eyes warm. "You see him clearly. Few do." They sat in silence, the temple bell echoing softly in the valley below. I think he wanted to be understood. Not worshipped. Not feared, Naruko continued, eyes on the horizon. So I'm going to do what he couldn't. I'm going to make people understand each other. Even if I have to talk their ears off. Genkai chuckled. Then perhaps Indra has returned in a better form. That night, as the stars blanketed the fire temple in silver light, Naruko dreamed again. This time, it was no flicker. She stood in a realm of swirling chakra, a place between memory and destiny. Before her stood Indra himself. Tall. Sharp-eyed. Cloaked in a storm of ancient energy. But his expression was unreadable. You are not me, he said. Naruko shrugged. Nope. But I'm carrying your stuff. So maybe I'm a better version? He studied her, solemn. Why do you seek to change what was forged in conflict? Because you lost someone important, she said softly. And you kept trying to prove yourself so it wouldn't happen again. But you forgot how to connect. His expression shifted. You remember, he said, voice quieter now. Enough to not make your mistakes, Naruko replied. Indra stepped closer. You believe love is stronger than power? I believe love is power, she replied. There was a long pause. Then, for the first time, Indra smiled. It was sad, but genuine. Then the cycle might end with you. When she awoke, something had changed, not outside, but within. Her chakra no longer felt foreign. It flowed like breath. The patterns on her hands were no longer random. They formed spirals of the Rinnegan's early structure, not complete, but hinting at something deeper, balance. Naruko didn't tell anyone. Not yet. But when she trained, the ground sang beneath her feet. Trees bent gently toward her movement. Animals grew quiet in her presence. She wasn't just a vessel of chakra. She was becoming a conductor of harmony. Her real test came unexpectedly. A visiting team from the hidden cloud arrived, led by a prodigious girl with electric blue eyes and a sharp tongue. During a friendly sparring match, this girl, Rika, accidentally lashed out with a lightning pulse that nearly shattered the academy's training poles. Naruko stepped between the blast and a stunned first-year student. She didn't raise her arms. She didn't dodge. Instead, she focused, not on defense, but connection. Her chakra spiraled outward and wrapped around the lightning like a ribbon of water. It spun, softened, and vanished in a soft spark. The crowd gasped. Rika fell to one knee, panting. I wasn't trying to, she began. Naruko stepped forward and helped her up. You're strong. But strength without calm turns wild. Rika stared, then nodded. You're weird. Yeah, Naruko said brightly. But weird is cool. The story spread faster than any prank ever had. Naruko Uzumaki, class clown, ramen lover, prank queen, had neutralized a lightning jutsu with her chakra alone. But it wasn't the power that impressed people. It was her restraint. For the first time, villagers began greeting her with cautious warmth. Parents waved. Kids followed her around. She didn't know how to handle it at first. She kept expecting the whispers, the suspicion. But it never came. When she passed the Hokage's tower one afternoon, the third stood at his window. He raised a hand. Naruko raised hers back. Sasuke confronted her a week later. What are you really? They stood by the riverside, the same place they used to skip stones when they were younger. Naruko had just helped a Jinan team stabilize a bridge using only chakra threads and a smile. Sasuke was watching. I'm me, she replied. You weren't always. She didn't flinch. No. But that doesn't mean I'm someone else either. He stared at her, quiet. You've changed, he said finally. I found peace in something old, she answered. And I'm not going to use it to fight you. Or anyone. But what if the world forces you? She smiled gently. Then I'll change the world. By the time she graduated, Naruko was no longer a mystery. She was a force of nature, not in destruction, but in unity. She mediated classroom arguments with uncanny insight. She helped Kiba make peace with his temper. She even got Neji to laugh, twice. In private, she still saw Indra sometimes. Not in dreams, but in feelings. In the way her chakra moved when she was deeply connected to others. He didn't speak anymore. He didn't need to. She had made peace with him, and through her, so had the world. Years passed. Naruko became a Chunin, then a Jonin. Her missions were famous not for their danger, but for how rarely she had to fight. Bandits laid down weapons before her. Rival villages sent delegates instead of spies. And when the time came, she stood on the Hokage's balcony, not as a soldier, not as a conqueror, but as the girl who once played with frogs and dreamed of being seen. Today, she said, addressing the crowd, I don't stand here because I was born powerful. I stand here because I learned to listen. To understand. To forgive. She paused. Indra walked a path of solitude. I've walked with friends. And I believe, no, I know, we can all walk together now. The people of Konoha cheered. And somewhere, in a realm beyond time, a boy with moonlit eyes watched quietly. And smiled. As Hokage, Naruko refused to build a larger office. The big chair made her feel like she was sitting in a bowl. Instead, she spent most mornings on the rooftop, answering messages from other villages with the sky overhead and a cup of miso broth in hand. Konohamaru, now her assistant, often complained that the paperwork got wrinkled by the wind. Put a rock on it, she'd grin, holding down a scroll with a paperweight shaped like a frog. But while she still joked and smiled, Naruko carried a sense of purpose deeper than ever. The chakra that once stirred like a storm now pulsed like a steady drum inside her. Not loud, but vast. Balanced. Full. It had taken years to understand that she wasn't simply carrying Indra's soul. She was healing it. Naruko established a program called the Circle of Hands, a peaceful initiative where young shinobi from different villages would train together, not in jutsu, but in communication, chakra harmony, and trust building. The goal was to break the cycles of misunderstanding before they began. One student from the Hidden Mist, a shy boy named Renji, once asked her, why teach this instead of more jutsu? She placed a hand on his shoulder. Because some of the strongest shinobi in history destroyed more than they saved. Power without peace is like lightning without rain. It lights up the sky but leaves nothing behind. He didn't understand right away. But years later, he would write poetry that would help unite feuding clans in his homeland. Naruko always believed in planting seeds, not forcing flowers to bloom. One afternoon, while helping Tujanon meditate under a sakura tree, Naruko felt a strange, gentle pulse through her spine. Not a warning, more like a call. That evening, she entered the hidden chamber below the Hokage monument. A relic room. Most kage rarely visited. But Naruko had a habit of checking in. Something about old things made her feel anchored. This time, a scroll was waiting for her, unmarked, resting on a pedestal that hadn't been touched in years. Unrolling it revealed a single sentence in delicate calligraphy. The eye sees again. Her fingers trembled. A seal shimmered on the scroll's edge. Ancient. Familiar. Indra's chakra signature. She closed her eyes, and felt a thread of connection stretch outward, not backward in time, but forward. As if a part of Indra's journey had still not ended. Not in her. But in others. That evening, she walked to the quiet hill near the academy where the stars shimmered between the leaves. Sasuke was already there. He had taken to visiting Konoha more often, sometimes just to stand beside her in silence. Did you feel it too? She asked, not looking at him. He nodded. Someone new has awakened the Sharingan. A different kind. A child? She asked. Maybe, he replied. But not alone. The chakra felt familiar. Like yours. But more curious. Naruko's eyes lifted to the stars. The cycle is shifting. Not repeating. Evolving. Sasuke glanced at her, then smirked slightly. Maybe you were the missing step. She tilted her head. Or maybe we both were. Indra and Asura stopped fighting when we stopped trying to win. He didn't respond, but his silence agreed with her. As the years passed, stories of Naruko spread far beyond the borders of the Land of Fire. Not as a warrior, but as a weaver, one who stitched peace between nations without a single blade being drawn. When other villages faced conflict, they asked themselves, what would Naruko do? And the answer was rarely fight. Sometimes it was listen. Sometimes it was wait. Often, it was understand. Even the tailed beasts, long feared and misunderstood, began emerging from hiding. Not all at once. But one by one, they visited her in the dreamscape, drawn by something deeper than summons. Chome once asked her, you are not the sage. But why do you feel so much like him? She smiled gently in the dream. Maybe because I carry his sons, and now, I want to finish what they started. The Baiju trusted her, not because of her lineage, but because she asked nothing of them. She simply listened. And over time, they began offering pieces of themselves, not for sealing, but for sharing. Naruko formed the Baijuu Accord, a council where each tailed beast had the option to speak or remain silent, contribute chakra or withhold it, live alone or among others. Freedom, not fear, guided them. Kurama, the Nine Tails, was the first to return, not in a burst of fire, but in a soft shimmer of gold. "You're no longer just my Jinchuriki," he told her one day. "You're my friend." The children of the next generation didn't learn about wars first. They learned about connection. They were taught that chakra wasn't a weapon, but a reflection of intention. They still trained. Still ran obstacle courses. Still learned hand seals. But every lesson began with a simple mantra. My heart guides my chakra. Even stubborn students, even eager ones, began to sense what Naruko had always known, that true strength didn't roar, it resonated. On the day Naruko turned 50, the entire village threw a surprise celebration. She pretended not to notice the floating lanterns shaped like toads and spirals. She feigned surprise at the parade led by the circle of hands kids wearing orange. But the moment that truly moved her was when she stood at the edge of the old training field and saw the carving. It was a new face on the Hokage monument. Not hers. But Indra's, and beside it, Asura's, finally carved together, not in rivalry but in harmony. Below them was a third symbol, a spiral within a circle. A mark unique to her. The bridge. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting warm orange across their stone faces, Naruko placed her hand over her chest and whispered. You can rest now. Both of you. Later that night, as she walked home beneath the stars, a small child tugged her sleeve. Hokage-sama? He asked. She knelt beside him. Yes? Is it true you used to be someone else? She thought for a moment. I think I used to be many things, she said. But the most important thing I ever became was someone who chose a different way. The boy blinked. Different how? Naruko ruffled his hair. I chose to love the world, even when it didn't love me back. He didn't quite understand, but he smiled anyway. And that was enough. Epilogue, Beyond the Cycle. Decades passed. Konoha thrived, not because it conquered, but because it cooperated. And though Naruko eventually stepped down as Hokage, she never stopped guiding. She became a traveling mentor, visiting small villages and forgotten places, not to teach jutsu, but to tell stories. Stories of peace, pain, friendship, and change. And sometimes, when she closed her eyes at night, she still saw Indra, not alone anymore, but standing beside Asura, watching the world from a higher place. Both at peace. The cycle didn't break because someone fought harder. It ended because someone loved deeper. And in that love, the oldest wounds finally healed. Legacy in motion. Years after stepping down as Hokage, Naruko's influence remained woven into the very fabric of village life. New buildings were built with chakra-conductive stone, not for defense, but for harmony, structures that responded to emotional energy, helping the people inside feel calm or focused. Her idea. The ninja curriculum now included a class called Heart Work. It was simple at first, guided breathing, shared stories, even painting with chakra-infused ink. But over time, it became the soul of the academy. One day, a student named Mika, a quiet girl with glass-like chakra, asked her teacher during Heart Work, what makes someone strong? The teacher smiled and answered, strength is when your heart stays open, even when it's easier to close it. Mika wrote it down. Later, she would become the youngest person to teach chakra empathy to a room full of rival clans. Naruko still wandered through the village markets with a half-eaten taiyaki in one hand and a handful of stickers in the other. She gave them out like treasure. Not as rewards, but as reminders. Be kind to yourself, one sticker read, shaped like a kunai wrapped in a ribbon. You're not alone, another whispered in gold print shaped like a spiral. Children collected them like rare cards. Adults kept them folded in wallets. Some ninja even wore them inside their flak jackets during missions, private symbols of calm, in a world that sometimes forgot. Naruko never stopped laughing when she saw them. One summer, during a cage summit, Naruko sat under a massive tree in the neutral village of Kinjo with the current leaders of every major nation. The new Kazekage, a gentle boy named Tai, had been one of her students in the circle of hands. I remember when you helped me find my chakra thread again, he said, eyes bright. I was so scared it was broken forever. Naruko tapped his forehead with a grin. Threads don't break, they just tangle. The Reikage, a woman of few words but deep strength, leaned forward. What do we do when another conflict rises? Even with all this peace, tension grows like weeds. Naruko's face grew still for a moment. We remind people, she said, that we're all threads in the same cloth. And even when it stretches, we're still connected. It's not our fear that ruins the world, it's forgetting that we belong to each other. No one argued. The stories say that on the day Naruko turned 75, she walked to the old hilltop tree by the academy alone. It had grown wide and gnarled, blossoms still blooming each spring. Some say she sat there for hours. Others say she vanished beneath it in a spiral of golden light. But what everyone remembers is this. That night, as stars filled the sky, a soft wind swept through the village. And everywhere, on paper scrolls, etched on leaves, even carved in chalk on training posts, a single message appeared, written in soft chakra script. I am not gone. I am part of all who choose peace. Children of the spiral. Generations passed. The age of fear became the age of feeling. Not because the world forgot the past, but because it embraced its meaning. Young ninja began weaving chakra into music, creating melodies that could calm wild beasts or open closed minds. Some painted with chakra-infused ink that told stories when touched. Others crafted bonds across nations without ever picking up a weapon. They called themselves children of the spiral. Not a clan. Not a cult. Just an idea. An idea that power didn't have to mean pain. And that the legacy of Indra Otsutsuki, once weighed down by struggle, had finally, through Naruko, blossomed into a symbol of healing. The final dream. There is one final tale, told quietly in tea houses and passed like a secret between masters and apprentices. That one night, a child born with flickering silver chakra had a dream unlike any other. In the dream, they stood beneath a moonlit sky, where two figures approached, one cloaked in flame, the other in water. Indra and Asura. But behind them stood a third figure, glowing like sunrise, with long hair and a wide smile. She knelt and took the child's hand. You're not me, she said, but you're walking the same path. The child asked, what should I do when people don't understand me? Naruko touched their heart. Show them yours. And the dream faded into starlight. End of the spiral. Peace didn't arrive in a single day. It came in ripples. In laughter shared over ramen. In soft footsteps on dewy grass. In apologies whispered across years. And though history remembered Indra for his fury, and Asura for his warmth, the world remembered Naruko as the one who turned that history into harmony. Not because she was the strongest. But because she listened. She loved. She healed. And through her, the oldest wounds in the ninja world were finally allowed to close, not with silence, but with song. Dear YouTube family. That's a wrap for now. Thank you for watching, your support means the world. Stay connected, stay curious, and as always, stay tuned. Anime Octopus.